Well, have there been any surprises in your 2017 so far? We've had a hurricane hitting the coast. How about for you? How many of you have had some surprises in 2017? How about some pretty big surprises? Even when you know that something is coming, it really doesn't eliminate the fact that you can be taken by surprise by the event. So this series is focused on what's next. This is the last in those messages. We've talked about what is next for you, and you might see it coming and still not really be prepared. Could be this for you this year, a wedding, a baby, a new job, a graduation, empty nest, retirement. Could be all over the board, something that's heading your way. You can kind of see it coming, but you're not necessarily completely ready for what is about to happen. And even though we can do many things to kind of get prepared as we see things coming, it doesn't eliminate the fact that there's going to be some surprises for us. We're all going to face some kind of surprise in the what's next of our lives. And we learned this, that there is no correlation between knowing what's next and being prepared for what's next, right? Even though we see it and we know that it's coming and it's happening, there is no correlation between those two. And I just will use a simple kind of a story analogy for you to help you understand that. Now, this happens on a regular basis for me because of my career choice, that I get asked to do weddings. And so people will come and ask me. I'm always excited to see couples come together and decide that they want to get married and follow in God's plan and God's design. And so I'm excited. They want me to participate to officiate the wedding. And right after they ask me, and I say I would, look at my calendar and check it and make sure everything's okay, then I say, hey, when can we start premarital counseling? And that's when they get this puzzled look on their face, premarital counseling, because we don't really have any time for that because we're preparing for a wedding, right? There's no time for premarital counseling because we're getting ready for a wedding. You don't understand all the stuff. We have to go find venues. We have to talk to caterers. There's all kinds of things to do. We don't have time for that, Pastor. And see, I have to say back to them, hey, I understand it gets very busy, but I really care more about your marriage together than I do your wedding ceremony, okay? And I want to see you get prepared for your wedding because newsflash, your marriage together is going to last a whole lot longer than your wedding ceremony, or at least we hope so, right? So we want you to be prepared and be ready for the good things that God has in store with respect to your marriage, all the things that are ahead for you that God has designed and has ready for you ahead. Now, all of you can identify with this. I don't think anybody in this room has seen an ugly wedding. They might be long or short or whatever, but we've never really seen an ugly wedding. But all of us have seen an ugly marriage, right? How many of you have seen an ugly marriage? So there is no correlation between us seeing what's coming and being prepared for that what's coming and getting ready for that what's next. Now, Solomon had some advice that we read a moment ago, and we're going to dig back into kind of line by line and verse by verse and go through a word that we don't really commonly use today and kind of help you understand. And it is some great wisdom. He was the wisest man to ever live, and Solomon had some great wisdoms from God to share with you. And the reason that he did was he asked God when he became king. God said, I will grant you what you want. He didn't ask for riches. He didn't ask for wealth. He didn't ask for, a big army. He didn't ask for, the most modern, sophisticated technology. He asked God for wisdom to lead his people. And God was this was right after the heart of God. And so God gave him just unloaded tremendous wisdom on this man. The sad thing is, toward the end of his life, he didn't take his own advice. He didn't follow the wisdom that God had given him and prepared for his life. Now, Solomon opens up this passage that we read this morning with a word that kind of needs some explanation. He says the prudent, and that's a word that we don't commonly use today. It so it bears a brief explanation. It sounds a bit like something from a Shakespeare play. Thank you, Prudence, for your prudence, right? It harkens back to another era. We're not really that familiar with it. But prudence simply means wise or judicious in practical affairs. Now, all of us have seen people that are, smart when it comes to crunching numbers, smart when it comes to science, but not very smart when it comes to common sense, making bad decisions and practical application of those kinds of things, wisdoms to their life. So prudent people understand, though, that life is connected. There is no isolated event. Prudent people, each day and each breath and each moment are important to them because they know it's going to affect their eternity. And so they understand, prudent people understand that the present eventually becomes the past and it shows up in the future. So how I am functioning right now and how I am living right now is not necessarily going to change in my future. So, I need to make some adjustments. I need to recognize that my present eventually becomes my past and it shows up again in my future. There's a repetitiveness about how we live. If you go back to the Old Testament, you see the children of Israel being delivered from Egyptian bondage and crossing the Red Sea. But ever after that, for the longest period of time, in fact, for 40 years, they wander around in the desert doing really two things. Only two things. They're either circling a big mountain called Mount Sinai. You want to take the I off the end of it. It's called Mount Sin, right? They're circling Mount Sin, or they're heading towards the promised land, the land that God has promised for them. They're never doing anything else. When you read in there, it's like they encompass the mountain. And finally, Joshua gets fed up with them at one point when he becomes kind of one of the head leaders. And he said, we have encompassed this mountain long enough. I've seen everything that I want to see about this mountain. I know exactly every rock and every pebble and every tree and every bush. And I'm sick and tired of it. Let's go get what God has given us. Let's go towards the promised land. Let's do what God's called us to do. And so it is with us that when we are not being prudent, when we are not being wise, when we are not being effective, we are doing the same thing those people were doing. We're just circling the mountain over and over and over again. Now, prudent people, they have a motto. And what their motto kind of is that, in light of, when they look at something, a decision, something in front of them, they say this to themselves. In light of the future dreams, in light of my hopes, in light of my aspirations, in light of what God is calling me to do and to be, then I want to make a decision based on that. In light of where I see God taking me, I want to make a decision based on that. I was talking with my son, and he's in graduate school now. He's going to school with a lot of people who desire to be in the ministry. And he was talking about this one particular individual, not calling him out or whatever, but just kind of telling me some stories about him. And he was having a challenge with this person that he's going to school with, having a relationship with. And one of his problems is a pretty obvious problem for going into a ministry level or leadership position. Seems like this guy has a pretty serious issue with substance. And as a result of that, it's like he's making a decision without looking where he wants to be. There's going to be a time when this guy is going to sit down with overseers, officials, other pastors that are going to have charge of giving credentials to him so that he can get into ministry and can do the things that he believes that God's called him to do. And he's making a decision today that's going to destroy his tomorrow. Yes. He will be sitting in front of these people and they're going to be saying, we see your gifts, we see your talents, we see your abilities, we see your hard study and your hard work, but we also see your undisciplined life. And we cannot let someone with an undisciplined life try to lead God's people, because what will happen is they will be leading them into undisciplined lives. And people who are living in wisdom, they are people who say, in the light of my future, I need to make decisions. I need to see where this thing is going to go. If I say yes to this today, and we were talking about this the other day with a couple, everything that we say yes to, we say no to something else, right? I heard this example by Zig Ziglar years ago. So this is back when, people were not walking around with a lot of tattoos, okay? It was just the beginning of all that. And so he was talking about how that this gentleman came and he was decorated really good with a lot of tattoos on his arms and in his neck, and he looked kind of scary. And he wanted to apply for a job with him, which was customer service, first person that everybody sees. And he's like, we really can't hire you here. There's some other things you could probably do for our company. This guy was indignant, but he didn't realize that when he made the decision to do what he did to his body, he also said no to the opportunity to stand in the front and in this particular kind of position and be the doorkeeper for people to come into this business. Now, a lot has changed since I heard Zig Ziglar, and it is a much more friendly environment for that. But his point is still true, and that is that we can make a decision today that will affect our tomorrow. We can say yes to something today that will say no to our tomorrow, to something that happens tomorrow. So we got prudent. He says the prudent see danger. The prudent see danger. I want to propose to you this morning that we see what we are looking for and we hear what we are listening for. This explains why it is so frustrating for us at times when we have a friend that we love and care about that's dating a train wreck. Has anybody ever had a friend dating a train wreck? You love them, you care about them, and you see it. You've only been around them for 5 minutes, and you're like, I see it. This is a train wreck. They're on their way to a big disaster. And you don't want to climb aboard this. You do not want to be a passenger on this train. But the person who is in love or likes this individual and cares about them, they are only seeing in this moment what they want to see, right? You are seeing tomorrow, and you're trying to help them. You're trying to be prudent because we see, right, what we're looking for, and we hear what we are listening for. I was with a group of friends several years back. I've shared this story before, but we had gone to a seminar, and the seminar was all about, the kind of learning style that you have and how to kind of identify people's learning styles. And so we're all sitting together at a restaurant after this training and preparation, and so a number of us, including myself, were auditory and visual primarily learners. And so a waiter, he drops a pan of dishes, and it just like breaks and sounds like thunderous noise, But one of the people in our group was not auditory primary learner. They were along kinetic and some of the other aspects of learning, and so did not even hear it. It's like they were so engrossed in the statistics and things that they were doing, and when they looked up and saw the dishes and the people running around, what happened? And we're like, you didn't hear that? You didn't hear the explosion that took place? And it really reaffirmed to me again that we see what we are looking for and we hear what we are listening for. You see what you're looking for, you hear what you're listening for. Studies show us that if you have already made up your mind about a particular issue, you only want to hear voices that confirm what you have already heard. And in our age that says, that we are supposed to be listeners and, we're supposed to entreat one another's, on social media and just, hear every argument and then make our decision, we are less and less that as a society every single day. Universities are shutting down voices that they don't want to hear, they don't think, because they've already made up their mind that is not the truth, and so we're going to go down another road. We don't even want to hear your argument. We don't want to hear your perspective. We don't want to hear what you have to say. And that is all of us in humanity. We make up our mind about something, and all we want to do is listen for voices that will confirm what we want to believe, rather than to entertain everything and to make a decision then based upon the facts, on the logic, on the wisdom of that particular kind of issue. We are closed to information and advice and opinions that undermines what we want to believe. This is true of all of humanity, not just particular kinds of groups. It is a lifelong battle for us. And what Solomon is saying is strive to be a wise person. You're not challenged by someone who disagrees with you. You're able to open up your mind and listen and hear. And yet, in the long run, you can see the truth when you weigh these things out, right? We like people that have talent. We like particular kind of personalities, but we sometimes don't want to see the character flaws that go along with those things. One of the things that I see a lot in as a pastor in ministry is the promotion of particular kinds of gifts in large church settings. And often, if they're not careful about examining the character, it comes back to burn them. They get in trouble because the person's character does not align as it should with the way that they need to be living according to God's word. And so while we were applauding their gift and applauding their talent and applauding their ability, behind the scenes there are issues that are coming back to bite us. And it's so important. Solomon is saying to us that the prudent are willing to acknowledge, what they desperately don't want to see in themselves. Remember, we talked about the mirror tells us that there needs to be change, and in people around them that they love and care about. So it says the prudent see danger. And what do? It says, and they take refuge. When the prudent see danger, they respond with an immediate action. They know that there's a response that's needed. And as you see something coming towards you and you see a few red flags, you start preparing in wisdom for the good and the bad. There's going to be good things about this thing, but there's going to be some challenges that are going to happen, right? I'm getting married. I'm all excited about that. That's great. But there's going to be some challenges in that marriage and in that relationship. So I want to be ready for those challenges. I want to learn everything that I can learn to be ready to do what I need to do to prioritize my relationship and my marriage. The prudent, it says, they know what to do. They're not taken off guard. Even though they may be disappointed by what they see, they're not taken off guard. Now, it says this, but the simple or the naive are living as if life is not connected. And what is clear is for the prudent is unclear for the simple. They both see the same thing, but the clarity is very, very different. One of them sees danger and prepares and gets ready, but the simple keep going. We have a beautiful example right now in theory about what is going on the coast, and there were many, many people who prepared for that as they saw it coming. They had no idea that it was going to turn in the last moment to a Category 4 hurricane, but many, many prepared. Now, you're not going to see one interview on TV of this guy. Okay, I'm going to be this guy. Are you ready? So you prepared and you got ready for the hurricane, and you were all ready, and it missed your house. It hit every other house here along the block and hit your house. Yeah, we're stupid. We went out and bought stuff and we got ready, and it didn't even touch our house. We're not even missing a shingle. It's so dumb that we prepared. It's like I feel like I wasted all that money and everything. I could have saved it. We could have bought a boat or something. It was really stupid of me, to get ready for a hurricane. It didn't even hit my house. That was awesome. You're not going to hear that guy, right? Because nobody regrets getting prepared. Right. Nobody does. They're going to say, yeah, we prepared. Thank God it didn't hit our house. It wiped out this part of the neighborhood. I don't know how, but God preserved us. God saved us, and we're so grateful, right? That's the one you're going to hear. And that's what Solomon is saying separates the prudent from the simple, is that the prudent see danger and they take refuge. They take immediate action. They do something based upon what they see coming down the line. And they're ready for it. But it says the simple keep going. They ignore the warning signs. The prudent see danger, even though the immediate moment that they're seeing it might be calm. There's nothing going on, but the prudent see it and they get prepared for what's coming ahead. But the simple, it says, keep going and they pay the penalty. Now, this is not the kind of divine punishment that's coming from God. This is just a cause and effect thing, right? So you see danger coming, you don't prepare for it. We don't say, God struck me down. We say, I wish I had prepared. I wish I'd gotten ready. I saw this coming, and yet I didn't do anything to get ready or to get prepared for it. And it's a simple cause and effect thing, and that's what Solomon is saying here. This is not God's divine judgment on your life, but look, there are many, many things that you're going to encounter. God's going to help you see in advance. They're coming your way. Get ready for them. Do something about it. Don't sit back and allow your life to be swept over by the effects of an event coming to your life. Be ready. Be wise. Make decisions. Get prepared. The prudent evaluate relationships based on where they are headed in those relationships. Are they going somewhere or not? The prudent, when they're developing, really strong relationships, people that they're going to let close to their heart, they are looking at where these people are going and what they're doing. Not, are they a nice person? Do they have lots of money? Are they cute? They are looking at these people and saying, where is their destiny? What are they pursuing? Because I know what I'm pursuing, and I'm after God. If they're not after God with all of their heart, then I shouldn't be chasing after them, because they're going to lead me away from what I want to do, what God wants me to do, what my life calling is all about. And so the prudent, when they're talking about relationships, they look at relationships based on where they are headed, and all relationships are heading somewhere, right? The naive evaluate relationships based on the now. Oh, isn't he a dreamboat? He's so cute. He's so talented. I just can't help myself, And they're living in the right now, in this moment. People around you could see that person has got problems. There are red flags up. We cautioned our kids early on about in their dating relationships to look for the red flags. They're in character. If a person tells you they're going to be somewhere at a certain time and they're 2 hours late and without really good excuse, and that happens over and over and over again, there's something wrong. There's something going on with that person. That person has some character issues. They're having problems with money. They're having problems telling you the truth and being honest with you. They're having problems with their attitudes, their emotions, and they fly off the handle, they drop the hat. These are things that are red flags. And we said, watch for those things, because those are things that if you don't like them now, you will hate them in a marriage and in that relationship, because it takes a time for God to really work and the willingness for a person to allow God to work on their character and develop them into the person that He wants them to be. And you may have, as we talked about a moment ago, reached out to a friend and tried to warn them. Said, this is not going to be good where this person is heading and where they're going. Another example is the prudent view, debt as a path and as a destination. And they don't want to be in it. They understand what it says in Proverbs, that the debtor is a servant to the lender. And they don't want to serve anybody but God. And so they strive to try to stay out of debt, out from underneath tremendous credit card debt, making minimum payments, going nowhere. And they stay out of that cycle, because they understand that they view debt as a path with a destination. One day you're going to get there and they're going to say, give me the money or I'm taking what you bought, right? And the naive, though, or the simple, as the Bible was talking about, view debt as an event. Man, see this cool car I got? See this cool stereo system I bought with my credit card? See this, whatever it is, they see it as an event. Proverbs 27:12, the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. This passage should be sobering to us all because none of us are immune. When I see what I don't want to see or I hear what I don't want to hear, I'm going to have to do something about what I see and what I hear. And there are two different paths. There are the naive who will not do anything to prepare for it. And there are the prudent who will make steps to prepare. There are 4 words that describe people that are living a prudent life, a wise life. And these are not always, all of them fun words for us to be described as. But you've heard this when you've been living in wisdom and living a prudent life. First of all, you've heard that you're a person of action. You need to do something and not just pray something, right? Once you see trouble, you need to respond appropriately. So prudent and wise people, they pray too, but they also get up off their knees and start doing something. They go into action. And I heard this story years ago. My dad used to share this story. It was based on a true story, I guess, that happened during the great tent revivals. And there was an evangelist who came and was holding a revival. And he had his tent set up, and it was packed out every night. People were coming to hear the good news of Jesus Christ. But there was a skeptic in the community, and he would come, and he brought just like a crate with him that you would put fruit in, an empty crate, and he would come up in front before the service began, and he would put the crate down, and he said, if there is a God, he'd step on top of that crate. He said, if there's a God, if there's a real God, let him knock me off this crate. You guys are foolish, all of you. You need to go home and take care of your farm and take care of the things that you need to be doing. This is a waste of your time. If there's a God, let him knock me off this crate. And so he did that a couple of nights in a row. Third night he gets up, he does the same thing. He stands up on that crate, and the evangelist comes down there and just cold cocks him, knocks him off. And the guy's just stunned. He sets up, he goes, what are you doing? I thought you were a Christian. And he goes, I never asked God to do what I can do myself. So the prudent and the wise, they pray, but they also do something, right? So they're men of action and women of action. The second thing that you may be described as is sacrificial. Those who give financially, those who give relationally and physically, your love has action to it, and that action is sacrificial. And, people will see that. They notice that. The prudent, the wise people are sacrificial. They're the first ones to step up and to say, they're not just starting, you guys should all give to what's going on in the South where, the hurricane has hit. All of you guys should be helping them. They're the ones leading the way. I'm giving a lot. I'm going down there. If anybody wants to go with me, come on. We're going to feed people. We're going to help people. So they're sacrificial. The third word that describes prudent people is misunderstood. And this one's the one that's no fun, right? Prudent people are often outnumbered. They're not the party of the popular. And most people choose, to live just in the moment. And so prudent people are often, identified and segregated out. They see you coming and you are misunderstood. They label you. They have a label for you. And our society recently in the last 5 years has just gone nuts with labels, right? The alt-right, the alt-left, they're just making up stuff, right? And they're painting you into that corner. You are acting in wisdom and you get painted in some corner, right? You're misunderstood. But everybody who's living in wisdom is okay with being misunderstood, right? Because the pig who built his house with bricks instead of sticks was okay with everybody making fun of him, right? Because when the wolf came, he couldn't blow his house down. So the prudent don't care how you label them, right? We know we're misunderstood, and we may not be in the popular group. But when the storm comes and the populars get wiped out, our house is still standing, right? Because we built it on a solid rock. And finally, the last word I think about those who are prudent is the word peaceful. No one ever regrets taking refuge even during times of tornadoes or anything else, there's a sense of peace about us when we make those decisions, because we're making them with wisdom looking down the road. We see what's coming and we hear what's coming and we're prepared. And we're never, as we used the analogy a moment ago, we're never disappointed if it doesn't come as strongly as we thought it might, and we, got prepared. Nobody ever regrets being prepared. They always regret not being prepared. So I want to share with you, as our worship team comes, a passage of scripture that's kind of been my life passage, and I would, encourage you to use this as your daily prayer. But I want to break it down quickly and share it with you. It says, it's Colossians 3, verse 2, set your affections on things above, not on things on the earth. It's a way that God has reminded me to live a prudent or wise life. And so I say this prayer pretty much every single day, sometimes several times a day. And it is a realignment prayer for me. God, a lot of things are going on. Help me to set my affections on things above and not on things on the earth. I don't want to be moved by culture. I don't want to be moved by somebody else's decision. I want to be moved by what you say and what you want me to do. I want to make decisions today based on what you want me to do. Now, here's how I use it as a prayer, and you can use it this way too, but I'll say something like, Lord, set my affections, my attentions, my passions, my desires, my plans on you, on things above. That I might make eternal decisions, and that the things that I do today would make a kingdom difference and not just a difference for me. God, help me to be focused on the people that are around me, pointing them up to you. That not only would my attention be on you, but in my sphere of influence, that the people who are watching my life will also be tempted to look up, because I'm looking up, and to trust in you and to believe in you and to hope in you. God, set my affections, desires, passions on things that are above. And there's so much going on in our planet, and I could be distracted. I feel strongly about this issue, and that could become my life story. Is in pursuit of this particular activity, be an activist for this or be an activist for that. But God, I want to be an activist for you and your kingdom. And I have no hope or trust or desire that anything that I say or do will really radically change this planet. But I have every hope and confidence that you can radically change this planet, and you want to start with me. So God, start this work inside of me. Set my affections on things above and not on things of the earth. And help me not to be blinded by culture, crisis, lust, but let me be pleasing to you in everything that I do. Will you stand with me, and let's take a moment to just worship him in song. And then I want to come back and pray with you before we dismiss today.